So in case you weren't there for the previous session, I'm Harguneet and I work with the AdSense team with Google. So this session is primarily just going to be regarding looking at reporting and basic looking at metrics, understanding metrics that is there in your AdSense account. So if you have any specific questions or any issues with reporting, please let me know. Otherwise, it's going to be very simple. It's just going to be looking at reporting and metrics and all of that sort. Just give me a minute. I'm just trying to open up a demo account. Yes, so this is how the new AdSense account looks. I'm calling it new because this was changed maybe one and a half years ago. It's a very helpful and intuitive interface, especially if you've used analytics or Google AdWords previously, because it's based on the same funda. So if you look at this, so any particular questions that anybody has before, I mean, in terms of setting up an account or anything of that sort, anybody's faced issues with that? Anybody here doesn't know how to generate the AdSense code and how to, anything of that sort? Or would you like me to cover that as well? Because I'm just going to keep it very simple. If you have any specific areas, please feel free to let me know. We can just keep this conversational rather than me showing you a lot of useless stuff. Okay, so this is the AdSense account. So a number that you see here, this is your publisher ID, which is nothing but the unique number that is provided to every AdSense account. This is how your account will look. This first button that you see is not something you will see because it's an internal account. That's why you see that. So please excuse that. This is the home. I'm just clicking on home. So here basically this is the main interface that you will see. So here you will see the kind of earnings that you have in the last 30 days. This is the finalized earning. Basically what you've made to date. It will give you the amount in a dollar value or INR value depending on whatever you chose while setting up the account. Please know that you cannot change the currency that you have chosen once. So if you want to change the currency, you will have to close your account and start a new account. But that also not in the same, not with the same company name, payout name. So that can be a big hassle. So make sure that if you're going to go and create your account today, make sure you choose the right currency that you want. A lot of publishers and a lot of people prefer using INR or prefer using USD, depending on different reasons. Either they want, because their companies are based in the US but they want to run it out of India, or for whatever other reason. So this is the home screen where you can see all your revenue numbers and revenue stats. Here on the left, you will see messages. Messages will basically have, so we as an AdSense team, we have this option of sending direct emails to people's AdSense inboxes. So this can contain things like optimization tips. So we, every quarter, that's every 3 months, we normally do things like, basically we try and tell our publishers what kind of ad sizes they should use, what kind of settings they should use to do two things. One is basically help them get more money, and the second thing is to make their ad slots and inventory more relevant to the advertisers. Because we have a saying internally, the bigger the ad slot, the better the revenue it is for the publisher, and it's also better for advertisers, because if you have a 300 by 250, which is a normal rectangle, for an advertiser that makes more sense rather than a 200 by 200, which is a small, very small ad unit, which most probably your users are not even going to see. So if you already have a website and you have an AdSense account, please go ahead and make sure that you have larger units, preferably 300 by 250s or 336 by 280 and or 160 by 600, depending on the space that you have. The 160 by 600 will be a will be a vertical banner. Then we have payments. So payments will basically, this is a demo account, so all these are not any particular person's revenue numbers. So in this you can actually see every month to date that have been paid out. You can see that say around the 26th of every month is when we start paying out. And it's a 30-day payment cycle, so you can look at the earnings. It will actually be broken down by product. So AdSense for content, AdSense for search, and then the total monthly earnings here. So we don't, we pay out every 30 days. I'm sure if a lot of you are publishers here, you do receive checks very regularly, depending on the amount of money that you make. So let me just go to the latest payment here. So currently in India, the only option that we have for payments is check. We don't have any other form of payment. In the US, we do have things like EFT, electronic fund transfer. We have PayPal and all of that, but in India, it's primarily only check because of security reasons. But EFT is something we are working towards, and hopefully within the next 6 months, that is something we will have. And that is one of the biggest asks that I get from a lot of our publishers, from larger companies and from individuals as well, from individual bloggers as well. Account settings is basically, this contains all your settings. It has your login email ID, contact name. You can see the name on which the account is set up, the address, all sorts of account level information, everything is available here. My ads. So this is the new ad unit that you see here, the button here. So if you're going to start creating ad code, so basically if you want a new ad size that you want to use on your website, this is where you generate the ad code. So you just come into my ads, you have the new ad unit, just click on that. You can go ahead and mention the name of the ad unit that you want. So in my earlier session, I had mentioned something about ad planner, and you can specify the name of a unit so that advertisers can see that later and try and target that. So this is the correlation of that here in the account. So you can go ahead and create an ad unit. You can call it, say, maybe a 728 into 90 text image, and you can also specify the particular page that this is going to be on. Like, say, if I want to call it news article or just news, so that the advertiser, if they're going to target my site, like say if I was going to put this on ndtv.com, they would know that, okay, this is a 728 by 90 ad unit. It supports both text and image ads, and it's in the news section of NDTV or sports section or sports news or whatever. So you can go ahead and give that information. Ad size is the ad size. And ad type is again text or image. What we always suggest is do text and image. That's always better because it helps drive the auction pressure. So from a publisher side, what that means for you is more money. Because there are more ads that are going to be in the auction, the pressure is definitely higher, which means net result will be you can definitely make more money from that. So definitely that's something that you should look at. You can create custom channels. So channels are basically, it helps you track specific ad units. So you can create channels for specific units or for specific combinations of units or position of units. So I can go ahead and create a thing called 728 by 90s. So that will track all the 728 by 90s on the site. So what that does is if I look at 720 by 90, I know, okay, if this particular unit is doing well or not. Depending on that metrics, you can take a call whether you should change from a 720 by 90 to maybe a different ad unit, because per AdSense policy, you can have only up to 3 ad units on every given page. So if you have more ads, more than 3 ads, what will happen is one, either the 4th ad will not show or it's a policy violation. So as and when our policy teams conduct checks, your account could get into trouble. So in that way, it's always best to have 3 ads, up to 3 ads. You can keep 1, you can keep 2, you can keep 3 depending on the space that you have. And here you have ad styles. So this is primarily for the text ads, especially when you choose text option. You can, if you just look at this, you can see the kind of formatting of the ad. Whether you want a particular, the thickness, the color, the gradient, you can actually change that as well with the custom settings here. So once you said, the moment you hit save and get code, this is where you'll get the code. All you have to do is copy this into your site, in your source code, HTML, depending on wherever you want to show the ad. And your ads will start showing. We claim up to 24 hours before your ad starts showing, but it actually takes about 2 hours. So if any of you are going to go and get your, if you have an account, if you're going to go ahead and place ads, you'll actually see it go live in about 2 hours. So that's how you set up ads. In custom channels, what we created there, it can be seen here. So this basically will let you know, if I click on view report for that particular custom channel, whatever I'm tracking, it will give me the reports here. I'm guessing this is not tracking anything, so you can do that. Then URL channels. So what URL channels do is pretty much the exact same thing except at the URL level. So if I want to track, if I have a site called xyz.com, I can track the impressions, the page views, whatever revenue I'm making from xyz.com, or I can use URL channels for xyz.com/abcd. So this will let you know, this will give you a domain level and or you can break it down to a subdomain level depending on whatever you want to track for whatever reasons. Because it could be if you have a very large website, like say if you have maybe ndtv.com. So ndtv does news, does sports news, does entertainment. If in case they want to see how much money they're making from each section, they can go ahead and create that. Okay. So next is allow and block ads. With this, what you can do is you can block, like I mentioned, you can block sites, you can block categories, you can block a bunch of sensitive categories, you can block different ad networks even, because Google is partnered with a lot of networks. But if for some reason either you don't trust that network, or if you have direct ads coming from those networks any which way, like if you have a contract with them, they probably get you higher paying ads or something, and you don't want to show the ads, you can actually block them out from here. So you can block at a URL level. Like this, you can just come here and mention a URL, maybe say xyz.com, www.xyz.com. You can block it. Then you can block by categories. We have a whole bunch of categories here. You can actually go into subcategories as well. You have apparel. If you don't want to block apparel, you can, and you want to block only jewelry, click on apparel. You'll come into this. You can see clothing, footwear, jewelry. So here you can just come and undo jewelry, and you can block that. Next,
Excuse me.
yes.
You mentioned in the one-on-one that you can use DFP to, as a publisher, only show the ads regardless of whether they're from Google or from some private network.
Yes.
Such as private. Show the one that pays the publisher more.
Yes.
So can you also factor that in through here, or is that
So that is done completely on DFP itself. So there's a separate front end for that. In that, if you're familiar with DFP, double-click for publishers, in that you create line items for every order that you send. So in the line item, you'll have something called dynamic allocation or rate. You just go there and mention a specific value. So the default setting for that is the moment you mention a value, so how it functions is the moment, so the number you mention for that rate is what Google has to pay to show. So how it will work is if I say 15 rupees, so the moment Google is going to pay 15 rupees, a Google ad will show. But if Google is not going to pay 15 rupees, that ad call can go to any of the other networks or a direct advertiser that you have set up, depending on the line item. So that is completely in DoubleClick, in DFA. In DFP.
There is also a direct advertiser option. Like if you are, for example, getting direct advertisements from Fox, then you don't need to get
No.
ads through Google.
So in that, what you can do is you can just, if you know Fox has a network that they're working through, you can just come here and block them. You can either block through the, you can block via the URL. Like say if you know foxnews.com wants to target you, you can block them out from here. If you don't want them to get access to your inventory from Google, and you want them to come directly, so you can actually block them. A lot of publishers do that here. So you can do it here as well as on DoubleClick, depending on how you're calling the ad. So it just depends on what code. If you're going to be working with them directly. So a lot of direct advertisers, what they do is they give them the ad code itself. They have a separate method of trafficking it. So they'll probably give you that ad code and say traffic that for me instead of this. So we don't even need to go to, sorry?
That will be handled through DFP.
Yes, that will be handled through DFP. So this is very simple. So DFP is a completely different product in itself. So here you can block by categories, by URL, sensitive categories, networks. The most important and the most interesting part, if you ask me, is definitely the performance reports, because this gives you all sorts of metrics and all sorts of data. Can you see the date range on the right there? Yeah. So here, this is the date range that I was talking about. So here you can give a time period, whether it can be a day, it can be a week, it can be a month. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to hit all time. So basically, for as long as the account has been running, it's going to show you all the metrics. Okay, that doesn't make sense. Let me just do last 30 days. And then on the left, you'll see things like entire account by day. So that is the default actually, unless you set you change the default reporting. So in this case, for the last 30 days, there's no data here. Just a second. So I'm just increasing the timeline from Jan to date. So this is the kind of data that we see here. So what this means is, on the right here, if you see, we have estimated earnings. Let me just close all of this. So estimated earnings is how much the publisher has particularly made. So in this account, nothing has been used, so it's made $0. So in case here, if this was a live account, you would see a graph here with how much ever the publisher has made, the publisher in this case being yourself. And here you'll have something called page views on the right. So on columns, you can actually shift between page views, add impressions. I'll just get to that. So this is the default view. You'll see estimated earnings and page views. What this means is this particular ad code has been shown on 57 pages and has generated so and so dollar value. And this is the metrics that you have for it. You have a page CTR, you have an RPM. CTR is basically click-through rate, which is basically clicks by impressions, and it's a rate, so it's into 100. And RPM is basically revenue per 1,000 impressions. So that means for every 1,000 impressions that occurred, how much have you, the publisher, actually made? So that's what RPM stands for. In this case, it's all 0. So here, if you notice, on this particular day, there was one click, there was one view and one click. That's why the CTR is 100. So with this reporting, you can see, on a daily basis how many page views you've got, how many, what's the revenue that you've got. So here on the left, you can actually do the exact same for a week, for a month. Next, coming here, we have something called products. So this breakdown will give you the breakdown of products. If you just scroll down here, you'll see AdSense for feeds, AdSense for content. Like say, if I was using this account for AdSense for search, AdSense for video, for AdSense for games, AdSense for content, or for AdSense for hosted content. AdSense for hosted content is nothing but if you have a YouTube partner account where you can make money from YouTube content that you create, that will also show in this. So this will basically give you a breakdown of all the products that you're monetizing, and you can see how much you've made on a daily basis, or how many clicks, how many views you've got, and you can see all the metrics here. You can do the exact same thing for the custom channels and URL channels at a specific channel level. So what that means is if I've created a channel for all the 720 by 90s on my site, this will tell me how much each of them are making. How this is useful is if you look at this here, it's called the add dimension feature. So I'm just going to go back to the standard reporting by month. So here what this will do is I can actually add metrics that I'm going to compare it by. Like say if I'm looking at ad types. Ad types is basically, it will tell you how much money you've made from a particular ad type, whether it's text or image. In this case, I already have 30 days worth of data here, and I'm just going to go ahead and add ad types to it. So it will tell me on that particular day how much image ad made for you and how much text ad made for you. How this is helpful is because depending on, so users don't behave the exact same on specific websites or even on different verticals of the same, or different websites on the same vertical. So if I have a news site, a user's behavior might be different from maybe your news site. So it's different. So in this way, you know how your users are going to behave. So if they're interacting better with text ads, you can go ahead and try making your other units text enabled or disable image if required, or the vice versa, depending on how your users behave. And also, if you want, you can even look at the CPCs. It's a misconception that image ads always pay you more. They definitely do, but the CTR on text is always higher. So it's basically a combination. That's why we always suggest text and image. So with this reporting, you can pretty much compare everything. Like if I'm going to break it down by days of the week, products. So I can look at products. I can look at ad sizes versus ad types. I can look at ad sizes versus country. So if I have a 728 by 90, in this case, let me just show you. Here I'm comparing ad sizes versus countries. Okay, sorry, countries is grayed out. So I can do that against, say, ad sizes versus, in this case, targeting types. So targeting types is the same as what we mentioned previously, was contextual versus placement targeting. So here you can see whether a particular ad size is getting you more contextual revenue or is getting you more placement targeted revenue. So that will tell you, which ad size is more famous with advertisers who are trying to show up on your site. So it gives you all valuable insights. So basically playing around with this reporting is probably the best thing that you can do, because it gives you information about the impressions, where they're coming from. So if you look at sites here, this will give you a list of all the sites where you're currently using your ad code. And then if you look at countries, this will tell you which countries you're actually getting a lot of traffic from. So this will give you page views and revenue. So a lot of times what you will see is, especially for non-English content, you'll see a lot of traffic coming from India, but majority of the revenue actually coming from US, because we have loads of NRIs who live abroad. In terms of sheer volume, it might be only 10 or 20% of the page views that a site might get, but in terms of revenue, it can go up to 50%, because like I mentioned, the CPCs and competition, say maybe in the US, is definitely higher than what it is in India. So if you have a mixed, if you get traffic from multiple sources or multiple countries, then this gives you that data. This combined with analytics can give you a lot of information, because analytics can tell you where exactly a user came from, what were the pages they visited, what sections they visited, how long they were on your page for, when did they leave, what kind of content they consumed, why did they, not why did they leave, but yeah, it can give you a lot of information about bounce and where they're coming from, where they're going, and that's a lot of brilliant information, because especially for larger publishers, this information, what you see in the AdSense account and coupled with what you get with analytics, this is the selling point that a lot of publishers have in terms of direct advertisers. Because if you can, if you have a direct sales team, or if you know advertisers who wish to target you directly, you can tell them, okay, this is the impressions that I get on a daily basis. This is my average CPC or CPM. I will show your ads only if you pay me X amount, whether it's whatever you're currently making plus X or into X or whatever. So you can actually, all these combinations of reporting and tools that you have will actually give you great insight into how much you make, how much you can make, what your actual potential is, and all of that. Any questions?
We can have, suppose we are using WordPress, we can use direct publisher ID and show the ad, right?
Yes.
Using some plugins.
Yes.
Suppose someone else is having some illegal content based site, and he is using our publisher ID and displaying ads. Can you find out such sites?
What you can do is, under account settings, you have something called allowed sites. You have a feature called allowed sites. Just a second. So you have this feature here called allowed sites, which is under your account settings. So you can go here and mention your URL. If it's a blogger site, you can mention your entire blogger string. You can try both. I mean, that's fine. So what this will do is, it will make sure that your ad code, the pub ID like you mentioned, is used only on this site, and if somebody else tries to use it on some other site, it will not work. So even if they try it, if I don't like you, I can just go copy your pub ID and put it on a porn site if I have access to its source code, and your account will get dissed. But with this, what will happen is, the system knows that you want your code to run only on these two sites or on these two sections, and even if I go ahead and paste it on some other site, it won't work. So your account is safe in that way. Any other questions?
Regarding payout,
yes.
You briefly touched on that. But right now we are limited to checks. Is there any, is it likely to change anytime in the foreseeable future?
Within the next 6 months, hopefully. We are looking at EFT, electronic fund transfer, basically. So. So we're working into it. So there are two issues. There are two reasons why we haven't done this to date. One is basically legal hassles, and second is we don't have an Indian entity. Google India doesn't have an Indian entity as such to pay out of. Right now, all the checks that you receive or who publishers receive are paid out of Google Ireland, even though they come out of US, but it's paid out of our Google Ireland entity. This is all externally available information. So hopefully in the next two quarters, 6 months basically, we should probably have more news on that.
Just out of curiosity, why?
Tax reasons, nothing else. Sure.
You mentioned that if there was a dollar account already and if we wanted an INR account, then that account will have to be closed and another one open, and further on you mentioned that it should not be open in the same company name.
Yes.
Is it just reflecting the fact that the company name should not be replicated, or even the bank details?
So company name, if it's based on a company, you can actually close an account and create a new one. We have a separate form which talks about closing and creating a new account. That you can do. But if you're going to look at migrating history or migrating data, that won't be possible. So you can go ahead and close an account and create a new one. There's a separate form. You'll have to mention your old account ID, the reason why you're doing it, whether it's, they'll probably have, I think, 3 or 4 options, whether it's for legal reasons or if a change in payout or change in country or something like that. So you'll have to just fill that form, and someone from our side will have a look at it and then get back to you. If you have access to it, you can just go and export it, but there's no way you can re-import it into the new account. So you can just have it like a reference if you want.
Supposing I don't re-import it, a closed account essentially means I use my data, it exists, but the account is unusable.
It exists, but the account is unusable. It's there on our on the front end. So if you still have access, if you still have a login, you can definitely go ahead and look at it. Questions, anybody? Any particular thing you would like me to cover, because I don't have anything else. So this is primarily what I was going to take you guys through. Any questions, any best practices that you guys want to know, what you should do, what you shouldn't do, anything of that sort, I can definitely help you through.
Many times it so happens that your account verification takes too long. So give us the best practice there.
Sure. So for that, what you can do is, for account verification, the simplest thing is just send your photo ID and address proof to AdSense-support. Even if you don't receive the PIN verification email, it's fine. The people at our end will go ahead and verify it any which way. So as long as we have a legitimate photo and legitimate ID proof, just send that along and we'll do the needful. Cool. Anything else? I think we're pretty early, so.
In earlier session, you were told that suppose two persons are living in same home, younger brother is also trying for AdSense account. They can use the same address. If at the home they are having same internet plan, same IP address, will that create an issue?
No, not unless you're trying to drive. If you're not trying to drive traffic here and there or do anything fishy, it should be fine.
Different website.
Not a problem. That'll work. Yes, please.
In the previous session, I had posed this question, but I think should have a question to you. After the integration of AdSense and YouTube, there's always discrepancy in terms of embedded views on AdSense.
Sure.
Vis-a-vis the embedded views shown on YouTube inside.
Okay.
Thereby, the monetizable views are always compromised.
Okay.
So, I did not get a satisfactory answer in the previous session.
Sure.
Maybe because you're not as expert. I just wanted you to throw a light in terms of how this is being tackled.
Sure. So this was analytics versus YouTube Insights.
Yeah. So what happens is, as far as AdSense is concerned, the monetizable view on YouTube comes in from where? Comes in from the analytics.
Sorry, if you could just repeat that, I got a little lost.
When it comes to AdSense, the monetizable views on YouTube on AdSense comes from which platform? It comes from the analytics platform.
So okay, so for AdSense, like I mentioned some time back, for AdSense the videos cannot be hosted on YouTube. It has to be hosted on your own platform, or it has to be run through a free player like JW Player or whatever player. So if it's being hosted on YouTube, you can't use AdSense on that because that's a separate program in itself. But coming to your analytics question, I'm not sure. But my guess is the backend that they use are completely different, but they should be similar. So there shouldn't be too much different discrepancies in terms of tracking. It again depends on analytics. If you are measuring plays, or are you measuring views, or are you measuring people coming to that particular site? Because if you have 100 people coming to that particular page, it doesn't mean that all 100 view the video unless it loads automatically. Yeah. So if
You were told that now the AdSense and YouTube and YouTube inventory is clubbed under a single. It's clubbed under a single heading, right? Because the payments are anyways made by.
correct. The payments come via AdSense.
Yeah. So it is a single. So as far as the views are concerned, there is only a single report.
Sure. So the only reason why I was mentioning that there are two different things is because there are two different products as such from our end, because their implementations and the codes are completely different. Because for YouTube, there's nothing that you have to code unless you're embedding it. If you're embedding it, it's just the URL that you need. Whereas for AdSense for video or AdSense for game, there's a separate script that we as account managers provide to publishers, and then they have to go ahead and embed it and make changes to the player as such. So and in both cases the players are completely different. So for an AdSense for video, you can have your own player, the Flash player, the SWF player that you have. You can either have your own player or you can use a free player like JW player. There are others that provide services at maybe say a percentage cost or whatever you make. So whereas on YouTube, it's only the YouTube player. You cannot make changes to the player, the code as such of the player itself. So there are differences in that. The other thing that I know of for a fact with analytics for YouTube is that it's a very new product. So it is possible that the discrepancy is because it could be a time delay or something. Like I think even the previous lady had mentioned that it could be that. But I know it's not a satisfactory answer for sure. But just send me an email. I can definitely look into it and we can take that forward. Any other questions?
Actually, I am using many different AdSense on 3-4 sites. When I link with analytics, only one, the main site is able to show the AdSense revenue in it. Other
Are you using one AdSense account or different AdSense accounts?
AdSense account.
Then it should show.
It's not showing.
And analytics will not show revenue. Analytics only shows you page views.
Click analytics.
So you can go to analytics, create a separate profile, link that profile to a specific site. So you must have created only one profile for one site. So you can go and create a new profile for that for the other sites, and then it will start tracking. Sure.
We have a site showing content in an HTTPS URL.
Sure.
So what happens is when we place these ads, our users are getting prompts of okay since there is a security concern. So
Okay. So for that you must be trying to show the ads on an iframe. So the problem with iframes is considering it's an HTTPS, it has to be an iframe because there's no other way you can deliver the ad. So if it is an iframe, our systems don't have data. So basically, normally what happens is when our systems are trying to collect information to show ads, to target the context, to target them contextually. So we go through your website content. In this case, what happens is since it's an iframe, it doesn't have any content in the frame as such. And our bots don't know if this is actually related to the page. So what happens is it gets a lot of targeting issues. So many a times what will happen is your page might be talking about finance, but your ad could be, it could either not show anything because it doesn't know what the language or what the content on the page is, or it could show something which is completely different. It could just show you a French ad, or it could show you ads for undergarments or whatever. So it could be something completely off topic. So in this case, what you can do is we have a feature called page URL. If you Google it, you'll find something. It's called page URL. So what that does is basically, in fact, there was a big rollout that we had done. So if this was the issue in your account, in your AdSense account itself, on the top you would have seen a notification in red, say you have ad crawler issues. Over there, they would have mentioned something called the page URL feature. So what that basically does is, in the ad code, you just have to add one more parameter, and that will let you pull ads or information from a specific page on your own site. So in that way, you can direct it to your home page or to any other pages on the site, and it will pull ads off of that and show on that iframe. You can do that. You can just Google it. You will find the required. It's just a single line of code that you need to add. Anything else?
As we have extra time, I just wanted to ask this
Sure.
question. Okay, why is Microsoft pushing Internet Explorer, Google pushing Google Chrome? Sure, people come and use it. How are they making money out of it? This is what I am.
So it's just about, I mean, I'm technically not qualified to answer this question, but it's just about market share. I mean, it's simple. If why is Tata selling, why is Maruti selling cars in India, and why is Suzuki selling cars in India?
But the thing is, let's say, why is Microsoft pushing Internet Explorer? One of the reasons can be because they set up their default browser as Bing, and most of the users are, I mean, they don't really take the pain of going into settings and changing it to Google or whatever they want to.
Sure.
So one of the reasons can be this, can they get searches out of it? But how are they making money out of it apart from Chrome?
Advertising.
I could.
Sure, please do.
I've actually been doing some research into this for the past year or so. Right now, the reason they want market share is because that means they get more users' data. Because for Internet Explorer, for example, they have a smart screen filter. How they develop that is a simple malware avoidance tool like ABC's ring scanner. So that is developed based on people's browsing habits. When you're browsing using Internet Explorer, data is sent to Microsoft. When you browse using Chrome, some rudimentary usage data is sent back to Google, and same goes to many other browsers. So it's just a matter of data, and nowadays data is one of the most crucial commodities we get. So from what I have gathered, from all my research I've seen, it's mostly about data.
Thank you for answering that.